Alrighty, with Killing Floor 3 just around the corner, being roughly 3 weeks away as of recording, this is currently July 2nd. Game is set to release July 24th. I am thoroughly excited for this game. I've been craving a horde shooter, so I might be a little bit biased. And I've also had beta access back when the beta came out, I believe in March, which was when the game was set to release. And if you don't know, it's been delayed, and it's been delayed for a couple months. They responded to the feedback from the beta. People did not like the beta. There was a lot of flack received from the beta, and some people thought the game should be scrapped. Some people thought this game was modern slop. A lot of people are still calling this a mobile game, and why is this ever created? However, I'm here to give you my personal take as someone pretty neutral with the Killing Floor fan base. Now, I'm a little newer to Killing Floor, hand on the Bible, alright? Killing Floor 1, I was not growing up during the Killing Floor 1 era. That game flew under the radar. My experience with Killing Floor 1 chalks down to about 10 hours of me testing it whenever I first got a PC, and then watching the Vanoss crew play the game back when they used to play Killing Floor 1. Other than that, I really don't have much experience with that game. Killing Floor 2, I played roughly the first couple months it came out on Xbox, as my friend was very interested in Killing Floor, as he was a PC player at the time. However, the game literally blew up my Xbox. It caused it to smoke, turned off, and would never turn back on again. I believe we were playing The Descent or something like that, some map like that, and it just bricked my Xbox during the boss fight. So, yeah, needless to say, I did not play Killing Floor 2 after that on the Xbox. But fast forward a couple years, I get it on PC, and I enjoy my time in it. However, I just feel like it's a dated game personally. Very limited movement, very limited things to do in the game, I should say. Everything's very menu based. It's very old timey for me, in my personal opinion. I'm just not the biggest fan of the you're on a client, you click the client to play the game, and then you play a map, and it feels very level to level based. Where Killing Floor 3, for me, I've been very invested as I've been playing. It's definitely felt more like a modern day game, I guess we can call it, where everything feels like a world. Killing Floor 3 feels like they're trying to build upon this world with all the map changes. City Streets, for one, has been completely revamped to adhere to their more in line with trying to make Killing Floor 3 feel like an actual world, which I appreciate. And of course, they have the hub world, they have all these things like this. But I've been very excited for Killing Floor 3. Killing Floor 2, I've had rocky experiences with. I'll still play the game. The game's still fun. I'd still recommend buying the game. You can probably get it for dirt cheap anyways, like 10 bucks, 15 bucks Canadian. But Killing Floor 2, phenomenal game. It just feels a little old for me, and I didn't grow up playing it, so I don't have that nostalgia factor. With that being said, though, Killing Floor 3 is on my docket list. It is on the whiteboard for me to play this year, and it's definitely my most anticipated game. There's a bunch of games coming out this year. Grounded 2, apparently there's some rumors going around with the Atomic Heart stuff, if you don't know that game. I'm a big fan of that game as well and would recommend it. It's basically like a modern day Bioshock. And then there's a few others coming out this year. Grounded 2, Dying Light the Beast. There's a bunch of games coming out this year, but Killing Floor 3 has really struck me just because I've been waiting for a horde shooter. Call of Duty Zombies has not been doing it for the past decade almost, it feels like. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time playing the beta. Now, some people are probably concerned because the beta was not well received and it's only been a couple months. So the question now is, what have they changed and what have they improved? And I'm here to basically give you my personal opinion, things I've noticed they improved, and an overall review, I guess, before the game comes out, as I don't think there's going to be any major changes in the next 20 days-ish of the game, and I do think this is what we're kind of looking at with the final product, with all these dev live streams. Now, the first thing I want to get into, and probably the first major thing, if you are a former Killing Floor fan and you've been looking for perks and characters to be separate, just like Killing Floor 1 and 2, this game does not have that yet. It is still a promise they have post-launch that they will be adding a separation from characters and the perks, and they did elaborate a little bit on this, where they are trying to get the gadgets, because if you're curious, a perk from the former Killing Floor games. They're basically a class, and then the characters, you'd be able to select any class as any character. However, in Killing Floor 3, currently, if you're playing Nakata, you have to play the ninja. If you're playing Obi, you have to play the medic. If you're playing Devlin, you have to play the firebug. I think you get the point. It's more or less like a Borderlands system rather than a Destiny system where you can sort of choose a bunch of different classes as whatever character you want. Or I guess like a Warframe would be a better way to put it. But however, they have said they are going to change this, and it will be in effect post-launch. And their details have basically been they're trying to separate the gadgets from the character and put those gadgets on other characters. AKA, if you're worried that Devlin is not going to have Imran's ability, even if she becomes the engineer, I don't think that's going to be the plan. I think the plan is that the engineer that has that giant backpack, a cannon on his back, Imran the engineer, he will most likely be sharing that gadget with the whole team, and likewise, Nakata the ninja gadget, grappling hook thing, that's going to be going on other characters as well, once you select that class. So basically, eventually, you will be able to pick Obi Kadobi, or whatever his fucking name is, and pick the engineer as Obi, or pick the firebug as Obi. That is the plan. Alright, so if you are concerned, and if you are really into the perks and characters being separate, then feel free to wait until that is added into the game, because it is on their whiteboard, and it is something they promised to do. Now, with that being said, I personally don't see it as a big issue, so I will be most likely buying the game day one. I have no plans to not buy this game day one. I'll probably have a review and other content related to this game, as I will be playing the shit out of it. I've just been craving a horde shooter for a while, and the weapon mods and everything like that so far don't seem to be adding too much in terms of the gameplay. Like, they haven't been adding a lot since the beta, I'd say. But one interesting of note is that the weapon mods and everything, if you're playing the firebug and you're using any weapon in the game, that includes a grenade launcher from the engineer class, that includes Obi's katanas and stuff. I believe if you are using, or sorry, Nakata's katanas and stuff, if you are using like a fire mod on them, you will be gaining firebug experience, and they will probably have something related to the firebug related things. So that's something interesting. The weapon mods, they could be interesting, but I didn't get a lot of playtime with them. I tried to level every class when I got the beta, so I'll be excited to test them out. However, moving on from the weapon mods, the sound design from the weapons is something a lot of people were concerned about, and I kind of understand what they mean. Some of the weapons did feel like they lost a lot of impact from the previous games. However, some of the previous game weapons, specifically the tech weapons, the more futuristic feel ones, those ones to me I did not enjoy in Killing Floor 2, as I went back and played for, 20 to 30 hours maybe in the past couple months, I'd say. I did not enjoy those weapons pretty much at all, or any of the medical weapons, or the field medic weapons. I did not enjoy those weapons personally, but I do understand what people mean when they say that Killing Floor 3 definitely lacks some oomph in some of the weapons. Specifically, the commando weapons, I felt like lost a lot of the impact, so I haven't seen anything that really fixes the impact feel. However, from the gameplay I've played and from what we've seen from a lot of these live streams, I don't think they feel bad. I just think they could feel better.
This.
So if there's any feedback I give, it'd be to just work on future weapons, making them have a better feel, better impact. And for the gun nuts out there, I do think there's a community out there that's very into the realistic idea of futuristic weapons and how they would work. And having a scar with just a few fusion cells is not the path that I think they want to go down. And I do think Killing Floor has made a few statements about that, and they've tried to reveal some of the weapons they plan on adding. So they do kind of just look like normal weapons now, and they, I think, are losing a little bit of that futuristic tone, which I don't mind. I would prefer a realistic weapon that looks really good, feels really good, than a futuristic weapon that is just a modern weapon with like fusion cells or like a battery pack on the side or something like that. So I don't mind it too much, but I do know it's a bigger concern for a community of people that enjoy the weapons and everything from Killing Floor, as Killing Floor was one of those games that sort of introduced realistic feeling weapons, the reloading twice if your magazine's empty, because you need to reload the first bullet that goes into the chamber type of thing. So there's a lot of things Killing Floor did at the time for gunplay, and Killing Floor 3 doesn't seem to be adding too much to that, but it seems to be keeping the formula. And Killing Floor 3 has also added the 4Gs, I believe, to each map. So if you're concerned about the maps being a little too samey or a little too not gore-y enough, the 4Gs are basically in effect for every single map to make them more gritty, have more gore, have more grit, I think is the other G. I can't honestly remember all four of them. I got a very bad memory, but yeah, they're basically trying to touch every map and make them feel like a horror-themed vibe map rather than the old city streets that was maybe before the apocalypse starts, where it's just like a cyberpunk-esque city where there's a bunch of Teslas around and stuff like that, you know? Where the new city streets definitely looks like there was a rampage going on and you're coming after the effect of the outbreak of the Zeds. However, there will be a bunch of maps on launch. We're looking at anywhere from 9 to 11, I believe. They've talked about Radar. They've talked about a few. I've only played the 3 that were in the beta, and it seems like they've gone back and touched up all 3 of them. So it'll be interesting to play those again. Now, I do think the game will need more maps to survive. Killing Floor 2 notoriously has a fuck ton of maps. I don't even know the number off the top of my head. But Killing Floor 3 is trying to keep a more in-universe tone than Killing Floor 2. Killing Floor 2 had a lot of themed maps, like the Santa's Workshop, like the one map where you start in like a Coliseum, and then you get teleported to different areas depending on how the rounds go, stuff like that. A lot of cool ideas in those type of maps, but you really get taken away from the universe, so I think Killing Floor 3 is trying to have every map sort of tie into the universe of Killing Floor 3 rather than having some of those goofy Santa's Workshop maps, which I'm not calling them bad or anything, but I would like to see some event-themed maps, but I guess we'll see what happens. Killing Floor 2 notoriously had great seasons, or sorry, yeah, great seasonal effects. Basically, enemies would be reskinned, maps would be reskinned, stuff like that. But yeah, so it seems like that's another thing happening. Another important note, DJ Scully is confirmed to be coming back. They revealed some images of him. I don't believe they revealed what class he's going to be. There's some rumors about the class he's going to be. But DJ Scully is definitely a character they're planning on adding, and if they separate characters from perks, I could see him just being along with that update so that anyone can play DJ Scully as any of the perks. Now, with that being said, moving on to probably my most excited part, the enemies. In the beta, there was a lot of problems with the enemies. Now, fundamentally, the enemies did look cool. The gore, I'm very happy with. The way the enemies attack, and, you know, some of them have range attacks, some of them have charge attacks, some of them have weird movements they're supposed to do, some of them have a little bit more interesting mechanics, like the siren's head coming out of its spine area and having like a sonic pulse thing, similar to the first game, or second game, I should say, but a little bit different because it blocks projectiles and stuff like that. I'm all for these enemies, but the beta did have a lot of problems. Some of the enemies would just straight up look at you and they wouldn't even attack. Some of the enemies, their animations would look very stiff and very janky. And from all the gameplay I've seen, and from all the live streams I've seen, and from my own gameplay that I've played, there is still a little bit of jank. They did say they're incorporating motion cap in most of their enemies and trying a little bit harder with some of these enemies. However, it is important to note that some of it is still looking janky from the live stream gameplay. Can they fix this before launch? It's possible. I don't think it's going to be fully fixed. A lot of the enemies, they just aren't motion capped, and they will just have those snappy sort of teleport to you animation. You know, I'm a very big nitpicker when it comes to reviewing the stuff I play and I watch and stuff like that. But just as an example, the Gore Fiend, or the Gore Fast, I believe it's called, because the Gore Fiend's the one with 2 blades. The Gore Fast, I hope I'm getting that right, it's the one with the 1-bladed arm. Sometimes when it's trying to block, it just snaps to the blocking animation and will just snap to letting its arm down as it's doing its blade drags across the floor animation. Now, I am not that big of a nitpicker to be like, oh, I'm not going to play the game because of something like that. But that's just an example where some things, they'll just look snappy and they won't look fluid. And if that's game breaking to you, and if it's really bad on launch, I will definitely have it in the review. But if that is game breaking to you, this game will probably not feel that fluid for a while. This is supposed to release in 1.0. There's a lot of things with its publisher and the people that own Tripwire that I don't really want to get into in this video, but basically it seems like they're kind of have to release this game this year, so they can't delay it forever, and it has to release in a 1.0 state from everything I've seen. If this is the case, kind of rough. This game does feel like it's about 80% complete. It doesn't feel like it's looking like a fully finished game. Especially from the live streams I've been seeing, and if you don't know, they've just had a live stream as of recording of this video, but a lot of the gameplay I'm showing is probably from the live stream as well. But it does seem like this game doesn't have a fully finished vibe to it, and that's purely based on the enemy animations and not being a lot of weapons. And if I was to give any of my feedback, it would be focus on adding a lot more things very fast. And I wouldn't focus too much on adding too many enemies. I would just work on refining what enemies there are. You know, Fleshpound notably has some really rocky animations and very stiff looking animations. Now, it is a little 50-50 where some of it looks very fluid, but you can tell what's mocapped and what's not mocapped very easily in the game. And from my understanding, mocap is a little bit more expensive, but it is sort of the soul of Killing Floor, having mocap be one of the major things. So I do hope they do a lot more mocapping. I do hope there's a lot more weapons added. I do hope there's a lot more maps added. But these are all things that will take time. And if you're planning on buying this game and you're expecting to play this game for the next 5 years straight, and you're not going to plan on touching another game, like if you're looking for your next fix for the next couple of years, the next live service, I don't think Killing Floor 3 is going to be that. I do think Killing Floor 3 is going to be a solid game. I wager most reviewers are probably going to give it a 6 to 7 out of 10 solid game review. For me personally, I just have a bias because I'm in love with the game already from everything I've played, and the fact that they've improved what I've played makes me already happy. I was planning on sinking 100 hours into that beta, but unfortunately job and, life comes up. But I am still excited for this game, and I do hope this game does well. I'm not ride or die with this game. I'm not like a shill. I'm not paid. I'm not anything like that. If there's big problems with the game, I will call them out. If there's big W's with the game, I will also call those out, as I have been doing with all my videos on Killing Floor 3. So that's kind of where I'm standing. So an overall review, I would say this game is looking to be a solid 7. Anywhere from a 6 to an 8 out of 10 is what this game's looking like. I would not wager to say this game is going to be a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 perfect on launch, compete for Game of the Year. However, in my book, it will compete for Game of the Year. But this game does look fun. It does look great. It does look like you can spend a couple hundred hours into this game, judging by just the gameplay, judging by the leveling system, the characters, and what they're doing in the future. This game ultimately will live and die by how they support the game. If this game is launched and it's in a buggy state and we don't get any updates and we're looking at a Payday 3 situation, this game might be a drop. But I think so far Tripwire has done a very good job being as transparent as possible with things they want to be, as well as sort of keeping things under wraps that they want to leave as surprises. As the UI changes, I think are great flavors to the game that were requested by the community, and they worked on it pretty fast. They worked on mocap as soon as people started complaining about the animations. They've already added mocap to some of the enemies, so the devs look like they care about the game. They look like they're willing to improve the game. It doesn't look like it's one of these corporate, try to get a quick buck type of games, but that's just my personal opinion. Does this look like a mobile game? Is this a modern slop game? I don't think so. It just has modern mechanics that look very good. It has a slide, it has mantle, it has grappling hooks, it has stuff like that. The UI looks very clean now. And I don't know any sort of mobile game that has even close to the level of detail of the gore in this game. So that's just my personal opinion. I'm excited for this game. There are a few things that could have been touched on, I think, before launch. However, I understand time crunch, and I'm pretty impressed with what they've done over the past couple months to improve the game, UI, stuff like that, the grits, the 4Gs. I'll probably show a comparison between the build we're currently looking at and the build I played. One of them will say beta in the corner, the other will obviously be from the Tripwire live stream. Shout out to their live streams as well, that's where I'm getting most of this gameplay from. And yeah, I'm excited for the game. I hope other people are too. And I think this game is going to be a solid 7, 8 out of 10, 6 out of 10, maybe at worst. And I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens by launch, but this might be the last video I do on Killing Floor 3 until launch, just because I want to keep a lot more things kind of blind if we're going into leaks and stuff like that, and I don't really like talking about leaks unless they're fully confirmed, because obviously that can change on a whim. But from my personal stance, this looks like a solid entry to the franchise. I'm excited for Killing Floor 3. It looks good. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. I'm picking up what they're putting down, and I have no problem paying the $50 Canadian, which it is slated to be, or I think it's $60 Canadian. However, it's not a full price game, half price game. That's not to excuse any unfinished business with the game, but it is just a, it's not like I'm buying, I could buy three Killing Floor 3s before buying one Borderlands 4, so that's kind of where the price is looking at. Microtransactions are another thing they're going to be adding post-launch. If you're worried about that, I do think they're going to handle it a little bit better than Killing Floor 2 did. Killing Floor 2 added weapons, and you would literally need to pay for them. Like the weapon bundles and everything, to get like 5 extra weapons, it's like $25 or $15, something like that Canadian. So it is a little interesting there, but I do think this game looks great. I'm excited to see what Tripwire's cooked up over the past few months, once I got my hands on it, of course. But yeah, this has been my overall thoughts before the final days, or final weeks, I should say, coming to Killing Floor 3. I hope everyone who's interested in the game stays interested. It's very rare these days where we get developers that actually care about their games, especially when it's a prestigious title. So, I'm excited. And yeah, that's been this video. So if you made it all the way to the end of the video, I want to thank you for watching, and as always, I hope you have a good day.